Ethan Hall never imagined that his ordinary Saturday morning would take such a sharp turn. He had woken up early, made himself a simple breakfast, and convinced himself that today he would finally tackle the garage, something he'd been putting off for months. He didn't expect anything exciting to happen. He certainly didn't expect the past to walk straight back into his life. All he wanted was to clear some space, throw away old things, and feel a little lighter. But life, as usual, had its own plans. When he opened the garage door, a wave of stale air rolled out, carrying the smell of dust and forgotten summers. Sunlight streamed in, lighting up boxes, old tools, and piles of stuff he once thought he might need but never touched again. Ethan stepped inside, brushing aside a spiderweb with a sigh. He grabbed a broom, trying to convince himself this was just another chore. Still, something in the air felt different. A strange tug. A quiet pull deep in his chest, as if the room was holding a secret he wasn't ready for. He moved a stack of paint cans, pushed aside an old bicycle with a flat tire, and then he saw it. A small cardboard box squeezed between the wall and a broken lawn chair. Its edges were worn and gray tape held the corners together. At first it looked like any other forgotten box in the mess. But then Ethan froze. Written across the top in faded blue marker was his name, but not in his handwriting. It was written in the soft, curved style he knew too well. Lily Carter. Her name alone felt like a quiet hit to the heart. Lily, the girl he grew up with, laughed with, dreamed with. The girl who used to sit with him on the porch on quiet evenings. The girl whose absence had once left his entire world feeling strangely unbalanced. They had been closer than either of them ever admitted. And then one day she left town without giving him a real reason. No fight, no harsh goodbye. She had simply disappeared from his life. And now, here was a box with her handwriting, sitting in his garage like a sealed memory waiting to be awakened. Ethan bent down slowly, like the box might crumble in his hands or explode with emotions he had kept buried for years. The moment he touched it, something inside him shifted. He felt a sharp mix of warmth and ache-warmth from the memory of her smile. Ache from the silence she had left behind. He carried the box to the center of the garage, brushing off a layer of dust. His throat tightened. Why was this here? How long had it been hiding in this corner? Who had put it there? There were no answers, only the weight of curiosity and the discomfort of remembering feelings he had tried to forget. With a slow breath, he opened the lid. Inside were pieces of a life he thought he had moved on from. A stack of photographs, letters, small objects that once meant everything. And little souvenirs from places they'd gone together when life felt simpler. There were pictures of them at the lake, laughing with messy hair blown by the wind. There were movie stubs, folded notes passed during high school, a pressed wildflower she had given him the day they hiked together. Each item was like a gentle tap on a door he had kept closed for too long. He lifted a photograph of them at age 16, Lily, with her bright hazel eyes and easy smile, leaning on his shoulder. They looked happy, comfortable, like two people who believed the world was endlessly kind. A quiet ache rose inside him. Why did those memories still feel so close? But then, under everything else, he noticed a sealed envelope. This one looked untouched, protected from time. His name was written in the center again, but the handwriting looked more careful. More serious? If you're reading this, Ethan, I guess it's finally time. His hands tightened around the envelope. What did she mean? What time was she talking about? Why hadn't he seen this before? Questions rushed through him faster than his thoughts could settle. For a moment, simply sat on the concrete floor, the envelope resting against his knee. It felt heavier than paper should feel. A quiet sense of something unfinished pressed against him. Was this the reason she left? Was this something she couldn't say aloud? Or was it something she wanted him to know long after she was gone from his world? Ethan looked around the garage, the quiet space suddenly feeling smaller. Outside, he could hear distant traffic, a dog barking, the soft rustle of leaves. But inside, everything felt frozen, still waiting for him to make a choice. Part of him wanted to tear open the letter and finally understand what had happened between them. Why she left. Why she kept something like this hidden. what she had felt back then. But another part of him hesitated. He didn't know if he was ready to reopen a story that had ended so abruptly. He didn't know if he was prepared for whatever truth waited inside those folded pages. He set the envelope down carefully, then picked it up again. His heart thudded in his chest, steady and loud. He wanted answers. He wanted closure. Or maybe he wanted something more, something he had been too afraid to name when they were younger. He held the letter over his lap, breathing out slowly. Every part of him knew that once he opened it, nothing would go back to the way it had been. The past would no longer stay quietly behind him. It would come alive again, asking him to face what he once ran from. But he couldn't sit there forever. With one more breath, he slid his thumb under the edge of the envelope, then he stopped. Not because he changed his mind, but because a sudden vibration buzzed in his pocket. A message. He pulled out his phone without thinking. And the moment he saw the screen, he felt his entire body go still. Unknown number. Ethan. It's me. Lily, are you home? His breath caught. 5 years of silence. Not a single word. And now, on the very day he found her letter, she was suddenly reaching out. He stared at the message, his heart pounding, the garage spinning with memories and confusion. Another message came through immediately. I'm in town. I need to see you. Thien didn't move. He couldn't. The box, the letter, the memories, they all suddenly made sense in a way he didn't know how to explain. And right outside, the faint sound of a car engine slowly approached his house. Ethan's hands shook slightly as he looked from the old envelope to the glowing message on his phone. The timing felt impossible, almost unreal. 5 years of silence, and on the exact day he found a hidden box of memories, Lily suddenly reached out. He stared at her message again, unsure if this was a coincidence or something deeper he couldn't explain. The garage felt colder, the air heavier. His heart was beating faster than he liked. He lowered the phone and finally forced himself to open the letter. If she had contacted him today, then maybe whatever she wrote years ago mattered more than ever. The paper unfolded with a soft crackle. And seeing her handwriting again stirred something warm and sharp inside him. It began simply, but each word pulled him deeper. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means time moved faster than I expected. Ethan felt his shoulders tighten. Her words were careful. It's like someone choosing each sentence with emotion she wasn't ready to speak aloud. I'm writing this because I couldn't tell you what I felt back then. Not when we were standing face to face. Not when you kept looking at me like you were afraid of hearing the truth. He swallowed hard. He remembered moments like that, quiet evenings, long drives, unfinished conversations. Times he sensed she wanted to say something important, but always held back. Times he wanted to say something too, but never did. I loved you, Ethan. Maybe I always did. Ethan closed his eyes. Hearing it from the past made everything inside him twist. He felt regret, confusion, and something he didn't want to name yet. If our paths cross again someday, I hope we're braver. I hope we don't run from the things we feel. The letter ended there, simple, honest, nothing dramatic. Yet it felt like a small earthquake inside him. He folded it carefully, thinking about all the things they never said. The way they drifted, not because of a big fight, but because life moved fast and neither of them reached out in time. His phone buzzed again. Ethan, please answer. I'm close. Lily's name glowing on the screen was like a shock every time he saw it. She was here. In town. After all this time? And she wanted to see him urgently. He stood, the photo box still open beside him. He looked at the items inside, 2 lives woven together, then torn apart by silence. He didn't have time to think deeply. He didn't want overthinking to win again. He left the garage, stepping into the chilly afternoon. The sky was clouded, the kind of gray that made everything look softer. His phone buzzed once more, but before he could check it, he heard the low hum of an engine. A car slowed near the end of his driveway. Ethan's breath caught. He couldn't see who was inside, but instinct told him it was her. He didn't go closer yet. Instead, he waited, heart pounding as the car rolled to a gentle stop. The engine cut off. There was a moment of silence, the kind that stretched too long and too deep. Then the driver's door opened with a quiet click. But before the person stepped out, Ethan's thoughts flashed backward, fast, vivid, relentless. He remembered Lily laughing in his passenger seat as they drove by the lake. He remembered the night she called him because she couldn't sleep and just wanted to hear his voice. He remembered the last day he saw her, when she hugged him tightly but said nothing about leaving for good. And now she was here again. The car door finally swung open and a figure stepped out. But Ethan's view blurred with sudden confusion. Because instead of Lily's familiar slim figure and soft brown hair, he saw someone else, a woman he didn't recognize at first glance. She looked around as if searching for something, then she waved her phone in the air. "Ethan?" Her voice was soft, unsure. He stopped halfway across the driveway. "Yeah, that's me." When she came closer, he finally recognized her. It was Lily, just different, older, more mature. Her hair was slightly longer, her face a little softer, her eyes carrying more emotion than he remembered. She had changed in subtle ways, but the familiarity was still there. She gave a small, nervous smile. "Hi." It was such a simple word, but hearing it from her after 5 years felt overwhelming. Ethan nodded slowly. "Hi." They stood there, a few feet apart, both unsure how to close the distance. The silence between them wasn't empty, it was full of everything they hadn't said and everything they suddenly remembered. Lily rubbed her arms, the cold breeze brushing across her sleeves. "I didn't plan on coming here," she said quietly. "I wasn't even sure you lived here anymore." "I'm still here," Ethan replied. "Still in the same place." Lily looked down, almost smiling in a bittersweet way. "I guess some things stay the same, even when everything else changes." Ethan wasn't sure what she meant. Her voice carried hints of sadness mixed with hope. She glanced toward the garage. "Were you cleaning?" "Trying to," he said. "Found something." "Yours?" Lily's eyes widened a little. "My box." "You knew it was here." She nodded slowly. "I left it with your mom before I moved. I think she planned to give it to you, but maybe she didn't get the chance." Ethan felt a small ache. His mother had passed a year after Lily left. He wondered now if she had intended to pass the box along, but never did. Lily's voice softened. "I didn't think you'd still find it." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he forced himself to ask the question hanging between them. "Why'd you text me today? After all this time?" Lily looked uncertain for a moment. She took a breath, steadying herself. "Because I guess I couldn't keep pretending I didn't miss you. I'm only in town for a short time, and something just told me to reach out." Her honesty hit him harder than he expected. And then she continued, "When you didn't reply right away, I drove here before I could talk myself out of it." Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't angry, just surprised, confused, and deep down, something else, something warm. Lily looked up at him with eyes that held old memories. "Ethan, we left so much unfinished. Maybe too much." He nodded slowly, unsure of the right words. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Can we talk? Just talk." Ethan took a slow breath. "Yeah, we can." But before they moved, something small shifted inside both of them, and unspoken. It's a realization that this moment might change their lives again. And neither of them knew. They were ready for the answers waiting ahead. Ethan led Lily toward the garage, unsure if bringing her inside was the right idea, but unable to think of anything else to do. The air was chilly, the clouds hanging low, and everything felt like a moment caught between past and present. Lily followed quietly, her steps slow, as if each one pulled up an old memory. When they reached the open garage, she stopped, her eyes immediately. Landing on the open box on the floor, she looked at it the way someone looks at a part of themselves they once lost. "That box," she whispered. "I thought about it so many times." Atta watched her carefully. "I didn't know it was here," he said. "Not until today." Lily stepped closer, kneeling beside the scattered objects with a shaky breath. She picked up a photo of them from years ago, 2 teenagers smiling at the lake, sunburned and carefree. She touched the edge of the photograph gently, the way someone touches something delicate. I remember this day, she said softly. We spent the whole afternoon pretending we didn't hear our phones when our parents called. Ethan smiled a little at the memory. We didn't want that day to end. Lily nodded, setting the photo down slowly. I didn't want a lot of things to end. There was a quiet sadness in her voice that made Ethan's chest tighten. He sat across from her, careful not to disturb the memories scattered around them. The garage door was open, letting in cool air and soft light. But the space felt strangely warm with her sitting there again. You look different, he said, not sure why the words came out. She glanced up. Older. No, he said quickly, just calmer. Lily let out a small breath. Life does that. It teaches you to slow down when you don't want to. They looked at each other, and for a moment silence spoke louder than anything else. It wasn't awkward, it was full, almost peaceful. Like their hearts were remembering something their minds couldn't quite put into words. Lily reached into the box again, pulling out a folded note he barely remembered writing. She opened it, reading the messy handwriting he recognized instantly. Her breath caught as she read the simple line he had scribbled years ago. Lily, you make everything feel easier. Her eyes softened. You wrote this. Ethan nodded. I never gave it to you. I wasn't good at saying things out loud back then. She smiled sadly. You weren't bad at it. You were just scared. Maybe, he admitted. Maybe both of us were. Lily looked around the garage, then back at him. Ethan, I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because everything in my life was falling apart. My dad had to move for work. My mom was sick, and we didn't want people to see how bad it was. I didn't know how to tell you without breaking down. And I didn't want you to feel guilty for something you couldn't fix. Her voice shook slightly, but she held her gaze on him. I thought distance would make everything easier. But it didn't. It just left this big, empty space where you used to be. Ethan swallowed, feeling something heavy inside him loosen. You could have told me. I would have understood. I know, she whispered. But I was young. I didn't know how to deal with everything at once, and you were the one good thing I didn't know how to hold on to. He didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. Instead, he watched her carefully, noticing the way she held herself stronger than before. But carrying quiet hurt, Lily gently closed the note and set it beside the other memories. Do you ever think about those days? She asked. More than I want to admit, Ethan replied. She smiled in a way that looked both hopeful and sad. Same. A sudden breeze swept through the garage, lifting several papers from the box. The wind pushed them across the floor, scattering pieces of their pasts around them. Ethan reached to pick them up, but Lily stopped him gently. Let them be, she said softly. Maybe it's time they see the light again. They sat in the open garage with those scattered memories around them like fragile reminders of who they once were. The world outside kept moving, cars passing, children playing in the distance, but inside the garage, time slowed. Lily looked up at him again, her voice steady but full of emotion. Can I ask you something? And I want the truth. Ethan nodded. Ask. Her eyes met his, searching, almost afraid. Do you still think of me? Not just the memories, but me, the person. The question was simple, but it landed with a weight that pressed deep into him. Ethan felt his breath shorten. He tried to find an easy answer, but nothing easy came. His mind raced not with fear, but with honesty he had avoided for too long. He looked at her, really looked at her, the woman she had become, the girl he once knew, the person who made him feel things he never fully understood. Yes, he finally said, I do more than I should, more than I tell anyone. Lily's eyes softened, a quiet relief settling across her features. She didn't look surprised, more like she had hoped for that answer, but didn't expect him to say it out loud. She drew a slow breath. I didn't ask to make things complicated. I just needed to know if I wasn't the only one stuck between then and now. You weren't, he said gently. For a moment, neither moved. They just sat there, surrounded by old memories and new feelings, letting the truth settle between them. Eventually, Lily looked down again, When I drove here today, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know if I should turn back or keep going. But when I saw you standing outside, something in me said I made the right choice." Ethan felt warmth growing where old regret once lived. "I'm glad you came," he said quietly, "even if it's just for today." Lily met his gaze with something close to courage. What if it's not just today? The question hung in the air, soft, careful, but full of possibility. Before Ethan could answer, a gust of wind lifted one last paper from the box, and it drifted straight toward them, landing gently between them. Lily picked it up and froze. It was another note written in Ethan's handwriting, one he barely remembered writing long ago. "I don't know what we are, but losing you scares me." Akana's scares lifted to his, filled with fresh emotion. "Ethan, did you really feel this?" He nodded quietly, and that was the moment everything between them shifted quietly, but unmistakably. Ethan watched Lily hold the note between her hands, her eyes wide, shimmering with a mix of surprise, emotion, and something deeper he couldn't yet name. The garage felt smaller now, the air heavier, charged with all the unspoken words of years past. Time seemed to slow, yet every heartbeat raced, as if the walls themselves were aware that this moment might change everything between them. He could hardly breathe, but he had never felt so alive, so present. Lily finally looked up, her voice trembling slightly. "You really felt that? All this time?" "Yes," Ethan said, his words low but firm. "Every single day I thought about you, Lily. Every memory, every smile, every word we didn't sigh, felt them. I never stopped caring." A small, fragile smile curved her lips. For a moment, the weight of 5 years seemed to lift, replaced by a quiet understanding between them. She took a slow step closer, careful, as if testing the waters of the feelings she had hidden for so long. "I kept hoping you might feel the same way." Ethan reached out, slowly, uncertain if he should break the distance between them, but unable to resist the pull that had been there since their first friendship. "I do. I always have." She let out a soft breath, relief and longing mingling in that single sound. Lily picked up another photo from the box, a snapshot of them laughing at a park years ago, and held it gently, tracing the edges with her fingers. "We've lost so much time, Ethan, time that we could have spent together. And yet, here we are. I don't know if this is fate or coincidence, but I know I can't ignore this anymore." Ethan nodded, his gaze locked on hers. "I don't want to ignore it either. Whatever this is, we need to face it together." The garage was quiet, except for the soft creak of the old wooden door and the faint hum of traffic outside. The scattered papers, photographs, and memories around them felt alive, like silent witnesses to their reunion. Ethan picked up one of the letters Lily had written years ago, reading a line aloud softly. "If our paths cross again someday, I hope we're braver. I hope we don't run from the things we feel." Lily's voice trembled slightly as she replied, "Maybe this is the day we finally do that. Maybe we don't have to run anymore." Ethan felt a warmth settle in his chest, a mix of hope, longing, and cautious excitement. "We've been given a second chance. It won't be perfect. Life isn't perfect. But I want to try, if you'll let me." Her eyes softened, glimmering with a vulnerability he had never seen before. "I want that too, Ethan. I want to try, even if it scares me." They sat down on the concrete floor, surrounded by memories of the past and possibilities of the future. It felt strange and comforting at the same time, like being home after a long journey, only to realize home had always been inside the other person. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of promises, unspoken feelings, and the kind of hope that doesn't need words. Lily picked up a small object from the box, a pressed flower she had given him long ago. She held it between her fingers, the edges delicate. "You remember this?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "I do. You gave it to me after we hiked that trail by the river. I kept it all these years, even though I didn't know why it felt so important." "Was important," Lily said softly. "Just like you were. Just like we were. Meant to be in each other's lives, even if life tried to pull us apart." Ethan reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I think maybe this is our moment. The one we were too scared to take before. She nodded, a quiet tear slipping down her cheek. I'm ready, Ethan. I've waited a long time for this, even if I didn't know it at the time. They sat there in silence again, letting the weight of the years melt into the quiet understanding of now. Outside, the sun began to lower, casting a soft golden glow into the garage. It felt like a sign, a gentle nudge from the world telling them that maybe things were finally aligning, that the past could be remembered without pain, and that the future could be full of possibilities. Lily picked up the last piece of paper from the box. It was a note Ethan had written years ago, but never given her. She read it quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Lily, you're the one person I'm terrified to lose. Her eyes lifted to him, filled with a mixture of shock and joy. You really felt that? Yes, Ethan said, his voice steady now, carrying all the truth he had held inside for too long. And I still feel it. I was just too afraid to say it. A quiet laugh escaped Lily, mingling with tears. Then maybe we don't need to be afraid anymore. Ethan smiled, feeling the tension of the past years finally ease. No more running. No more hiding. Lily reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining naturally, as if they had been meant to fit together all along. Do you think? This could be our beginning, she asked softly. Ethan looked into her eyes, seeing the reflection of hope, longing, and something tender he had never dared to name. I think it already is, he said. The garage, once a place of dust, forgotten memories, and silence, now felt alive with possibilities. The scattered papers and photos no longer felt like remnants of a past they had lost. They were reminders of love that had waited patiently, refusing to fade. They sat there, holding hands, not rushing, not forcing, simply letting the moment unfold naturally. It wasn't a perfect fairy tale, it was better. It was real. It was them. And for the first time in years, both Ethan and Lily felt a sense of calm. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, the universe had given them another chance to get it right. Ethan brushed a tear from Lily's cheek, smiling gently. We have time now. Time to rebuild, to remember, and to create new memories. Lily nodded, her head resting slightly against his shoulder. And this time we won't let go so easily. The soft golden light of the late afternoon surrounded them, warm and comforting. Outside, life went on, but inside the garage, their hearts beat together, slow and steady. The past had brought them here, but the future was theirs too, right? Ethan tightened his grip on her hand. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Together, Lily agreed. Her voice filled with hope and quiet determination. They stayed there. Two people who had been apart for too long. Finally reunited, not just in space, but in heart. The garage, the box, the letters they had all led them here, to this small, fragile, perfect beginning. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows and golden light across the floor, Ethan and Lily realized that sometimes the most unexpected moments could change everything, giving life a chance to start anew. And in that soft, quiet evening, they felt it love, unspoken but deeply known, ready to bloom once more.